Back in the Middle Ages, imposing castles and walled cities, with their kings and knights in shining armor, might have seemed like an ideal place to live. However, life was far from easy during those times. The environment was often unhealthy, and ignorance and hostility were rampant. Even the slightest offense could lead to brutal punishments that would make modern-day problems seem trivial in comparison. For centuries, people used various methods of punishment, both to purify and to cause suffering to those accused of wrongdoing. These methods were particularly favored by the Holy Inquisition, which used them to exercise their divine justice. Sadly, this often resulted in the deliberate deaths of thousands of people. Today, we will take a closer look at the agony that these terrible punishments inflicted upon the unfortunate individuals who endured them. Welcome to Time Capsule. Join us as we explore and delve into the dark and painful history of punishment in the Middle Ages. Among the many methods of punishment used in the Middle Ages, one of the most cruel and painful was the chair full of spikes. This horrific punishment was reserved for crimes such as adultery, witchcraft, and murder. At first glance, the iron chair may seem similar to a bed of nails, which distributes weight evenly and can be laid on safely. But in this case, the situation was quite different. The iron chair was designed to inflict slow, excruciating agony. The prisoner was forced to sit down and restrained with metal straps and rods. As the interrogation proceeded, the executioner would tighten the latches, applying greater pressure that would drive the spikes deep into the victim's skin. To make matters worse, the chair could be heated with burning coals placed underneath, causing severe burns and increasing the suffering of the prisoner. The torture could go on for days, with death often coming only after the victim was released and succumbed to infections caused by the wounds. The chair full of spikes was a brutal and merciless punishment, reserved for the most heinous crimes. The agony and suffering inflicted on the victims were unimaginable, and today, we can only shudder at the thought of such a barbaric practice. In the annals of history, there exist countless accounts of unspeakable atrocities inflicted upon women. One such method of torture and execution, the iron spider, was among the most heinous. This cruel contraption was used to tear the mammary glands from a woman's body, destroying all the adjacent tissues in the most excruciating way imaginable. The device could be applied cold or red hot, as the executioner turned it slowly while pulling forcefully on the flesh until it was torn away from the victim's body. For those who survived the torment and were spared execution, they would be marked for life and unable to breastfeed any future children. The ramifications of such an ordeal were devastating and long-lasting. But perhaps the most shocking and grotesque instance of this punishment occurred in the case of Anna Pappenheimer, a German woman accused of witchcraft in 1600. After enduring the punishment of the iron spider, her flesh was flayed, leaving her maimed and mutilated. To add further insult to injury, her children, now grown, were forced to feed on the very mammary glands that had been torn from their mother's body. The cruelty and brutality of such punishments are beyond comprehension. They serve as a reminder of the depths of human depravity and the importance of upholding justice and human rights in all societies. In the Middle Ages, being sentenced to death was a terrifying prospect. However, some saw the garrote as a more humane way to go, despite its gruesome appearance. According to King Ferdinand VII, the condemned would die sitting comfortably. The device consisted of a chair with an iron collar at neck level to hold the victim upright. Behind the neck was a piece of metal with a pointed end attached to a spiral screw, with two handles for the executioner to hold. The garrote was intended to induce a coma as the pointed object penetrated the skin and destroyed the cervical vertebrae and spinal cord with each turn of the screw, ultimately ending the victim's suffering. However, in reality, this only happened if all the conditions were ideal. Many times, the device would pierce the neck without killing the inmate, causing immense pain and leading to death due to lack of oxygen. Despite being seen as a more merciful way to execute someone, the garrote was still a terrifying and painful way to die. Rat torture. an ancient Chinese method of punishment, made its way to Europe because of Dutchman Ditriku Sonoyu. Suspects of conspiracy were brought before the executioner for interrogation, and if they refused to confess, they were left to the mercy of the rats. A cage, modified to have an opening on one side, was placed on the abdomen of the immobilized accused, with at least one hungry rat inside. Burning embers were poured over the cage, forcing the rat to look for a way out. Unable to quickly gnaw through the metal bars, the rat's only option was to burrow through the soft flesh and guts of the victim to preserve its life. Those who refused to confess were left to suffer unimaginable agony as the rats slowly ate away at their insides. It was a gruesome and brutal way to extract a confession and a testament to the depths of human cruelty. Those who refused to confess were left to suffer unimaginable agony as the rats slowly ate away at their insides. It was a gruesome and brutal way to extract a confession and a testament to the depths of human cruelty. Unlike the previous punishments, this one is more comical than horrifying, though it's undoubtedly humiliating. In medieval times, rowdy drunks and troublemakers who caused constant disturbances would often find themselves waking up inside the same barrel from which they drank all night, with a terrible hangover and in the midst of a crowd. This was a punishment designed to make them aware of the consequences of alcohol abuse. The punishment involved making the drunkard wear a modified barrel as clothing for hours, or even the whole day, and parading through the streets while enduring taunts, insults, and rotten tomatoes thrown by the citizens. To make matters worse, on certain occasions, people would throw buckets of ice water at them. It was hoped that such public humiliation would encourage these individuals to drink less in the future. The Spanish Inquisition was notorious for their use of torture to extract confessions from those accused of wrongdoing. However, one particular execution stands out for its grotesque and brutal nature, seemingly intended solely to cause unimaginable suffering. In an attempt to rid the world of a supposed demonic spawn that had allegedly been conceived inside the accused woman, the inquisitors subjected her to a horrifying ordeal. She was suspended upside down with her legs spread apart, while two executioners inserted their hands into her womb. Despite the excruciating pain, the woman was not permitted to faint or quickly bleed to death due to the position in which she was suspended that allowed oxygen to reach her brain. The brutality of this punishment is beyond comprehension. In an attempt to maintain their power as the sole intermediary between God and mankind, the Church initiated massive witch hunts throughout Europe during the 13th century. These hunts were primarily focused on women who were accused of practicing witchcraft. Any accusation, no matter how baseless, could lead to a sentence of being burned at the stake. The accused had no means of defending themselves, as anything they said in court would be taken as an attempt by the devil to persuade the court. To determine their guilt, some of these women were subjected to divine rituals where it was believed that a higher power would decide their fate. One such test was the water, where it was believed that witches and warlocks, being soulless, weighed less than regular humans. They were thrown into a lake and completely immobilized. If they floated, it was seen as proof that they were followers of Satan. If they sank, it was confirmation that they were normal people. Unfortunately, it was often too late to rescue them from the lake, and most of them would drown. This was a horrific practice that caused the deaths of many innocent people, and it was often fueled by envy and jealousy. Humanity has always been capable of inventing new methods of punishment and torture, no matter how gruesome or barbaric they may be. Although many of these methods are no longer used, the fact remains that human cruelty and sadism have not disappeared. As we continue to evolve, so do our methods of inflicting pain and suffering. But no matter what new horrors we uncover, we at Time Capsule will be here to report them to you.